Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Oh, my bad. Oh, I screwed up this morning, Cole. There we go. I'm a tired boy. Didn't sleep much last night. Cole Carmody, Tim Fitzgerald here with the Powercat Postgame Podcast. Post-debacle podcast is what this one should be, and I put the wrong header up there. Cole, what's your name, Cole?
That is my name.
Where's the postgame? Oh, that special edition. I can't find it. There it is. Cole, have you come to any great wisdom?
I have. I've been thinking.
Okay.
So a little story here. I was going to stay in Manhattan last night. I was obviously in Manhattan covering the game and was going to stay in Manhattan last night and decided afterwards that it might be best to drive home and get a good night's sleep. And so in my probably 30 plus minutes of driving in the pure silence and utter silence, trying to figure out what just happened, I kept thinking back to what happened in that game. And the biggest takeaway that I had from everything, Fitz, is it just felt like there was nobody on the field who put their foot down and said enough is enough. From the coaches to the players, it felt like there was a lack of leadership. And I think when you have a young team, that's kind of to be expected. But at this point in the season, we're almost to Thanksgiving and the end of the year, you would have hoped that there would have been a leader to have emerged. And I kept going back to that post-game press conference with Chris Kleiman. And to me, what I took from all of it, Fitz, was that this team is just in disarray right now, and they feel like they have the answers, and the answers aren't the right answers. And that's a problem.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack about this game. We'll get into all that as best we can. We welcome your comments over on YouTube and Twitter, and we'll try to delve into this as best we can. Let me start here. It's become obvious something's going on in Chris Kleiman's personal life, and it's personal. I am privy to that knowledge, and I don't. Some of you seem to think I possess knowledge not to share it, but this is not my knowledge to share in a public forum. But I want to clarify. This is an easy environment for rumors to get rolling. This is not in Coach Kleiman's own household. This is not about him, but it is someone very close, adjacent, a family member to the household that is going through something really serious, and it's impacted his household because of that. And it's not good. It has to be distracting. He's pushing forward, but I think we can all recognize that he's hurting. To see his football program perform like that, particularly at this time, and I'll be honest, I'm pissed off about it. I'm pissed off that those around him would let him down so badly in a time when he needed, you to step up. I know this is not a good comparison, and I know that it makes a much smaller picture here than what Chris Kleiman is going through. But with all I've gone through, my dudes have stepped up. They've taken care of shit. They've been on point. I thought his coaches let him down in a way that I think broke him. That was the worst coach football team I've seen since Bill Snyder arrived, and I watched Ron Prince play. That team was ill-prepared mentally and physically. They were ill-equipped to play a football game. It was their 10th game of the season, and I'm sitting there asking myself, Cole, what the hell is going on? What? The coaches didn't have the players ready, but at some point as a player, you got to have some damn pride.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go through the motions. It's clear something's up with Avery physically. He's not confident in his ability to run. He's timid to run. and the coaching staff isn't putting him in a position to have successful runs. Cole, were there many really, truly designed quarterback runs over the RPOs? I don't remember really a designed quarterback run in which they put Avery into a good situation to have positive gain.
There was a few on the goal line. I think they might have called back-to-back. It looked like it might have been the same play, quite honestly, on one of the attempts near the goal line where K-State then tried to kick a field goal early on in the first half, and ultimately bad snap, bad hold, what have you, which we'll get into. I have a lot of thoughts on that, Fitz. Pretty near and dear to my heart there. But you're right. Like it's weird because typically in the past, like the last 4 years that I've been covering this team, it's been pretty obvious that, okay, there are some flaws on the roster that need to either get fixed through recruiting and get fixed in the portal. But every team they've played this year, Fitz, they've been better than. And I think that's why maybe this season is so disappointing, not just for fans, but for the players and for the coaches, because they know that they are the ones who are solely responsible for screwing up. Go back to Texas last year. And the reason why that loss wasn't, I think, as frustrating for fans and maybe even for players as well, you kind of got that sense, is they left it all out there. And while they made a ton of mistakes, they could fall back on, well, we weren't supposed to win the game because Texas has more talent than us. We weren't supposed to win the game because, Texas has 4 and 5 star players and we're 3-star players. And say what you want to say, but that matters. Players know that. They might say that it doesn't matter, but they know that it matters. And I think that's why this season's so frustrating for this group, is because they know that every single team they've played, Fitz, they have been a favorite in every single game this season. They'll be a favorite next week. They won't be against Iowa State, but they'll be a favorite next week too. And I think that's why this is so frustrating, is because it's not a talent thing. And we haven't said that at K-State in how long? That's what's frustrating.
Agree totally. Our Ryan Wallace couldn't be with us this morning. He made a good choice and went to church. Let me read you something, though, that he shared with us in our group about Avery. I'll just read it. The kid clearly is 100%. Has no wide receivers doing the right things consistently, and it's incredibly bad. They're constantly doing the wrong things or not blocking when they should be. Has sub-average blocking in front, and a play caller has no idea how to get him or the offense as a whole into a best position to execute strengths and develop confidence and rhythm. There's just a complete disconnect right now with how this offense is trying to present itself. And by the fact that when they went hurry up, Cole, and they started moving the ball and the play calling looked different, was curious to me. It looked radically different. Sure, they still ran DJ Giddens into the middle quite a bit, but it actually started to work because
they were
the opponent started defending differently. But that I didn't understand at all what they were trying to accomplish offensively last night. I have no clue. I think another thing that was upsetting to Chris Kleiman is he's put his faith in people, his trust, and I've been told repeatedly by people who know him really well that maybe his only weakness is loyalty. Too much, and that's a good weakness to have, to be honest. But when it manifests itself in such a public way, I think he's recognizing he's got to make some hard decisions at a time when he doesn't really want to make hard decisions because of everything else around him. If you're from the I don't care crowd, I don't know what to tell you. When something tragic happens within your family circle, and you are in a position where you got to keep working, it sucks. And I don't know if you can fully understand how much it sucks. We've all been through stuff, though, and he's having to do it in public, and that's the life he chose. He gets a big paycheck. I get all that. And I'm not looking for sympathy for Chris Kleiman. I'm just saying there's a lot of things going on here. And it's really hard to wrap my mind around all the crap going on right now with the program. there are a few locker room issues. It's nothing like players fighting amongst themselves. It's nothing like that. It's just egos, and let's be blunt. I'm fearful that with exceptions now, the NIL world has changed college athletics in a way that we don't want. I think with K-State basketball, Cole, on Thursday night, we saw the NIL.
Mm-hmm.
I got my check. I'm going to go through the motions. I'm not really motivated to play this game. I'm good. I'll just be out of here. I'm getting paid like $70K for this game. I'm good. And I think now when players start asking for more touches, and they, not to help the team, but to improve their NIL, well, your teammate's going to react. They're not going to be happy, but how they reacted in last night's performance, Cole Carmody, that's not the answer.
It's not.
Proving why none of you deserve any more NIL is not the answer to that problem.
No. And I think the biggest thing with that, Fitz, is there are so many frustrations, and we can talk about the fan base all we want, but when you are now paying players salaries, the reactions from fans are going to be stronger. And,
Yep.
We can sit here and say that that's not a big deal. Fitz, they were booing in the second quarter. They were booing a 7-2 team in the second quarter because the expectations are now so high. And K-State has set those expectations so high. And so I can't blame fans for booing because you know what? When you are now involved in the program and when you have repeatedly been told this team is going to win a Big 12 championship, that is their goal. That is not something we said. That is something they said. They are the ones saying that they want to win a Big 12 championship. They're the ones who are saying they want to make the college football playoff. And when fans now have a literal investment into the team, the expectations are just different. They just are.
Yep. I want to say this too. I don't blame anyone for booing that performance because I understand expectations. I understand the record, but there's also an expectations for an effort level.
Mm-hmm.
And there's expectations coming off of an off week that they'd be a better football team from the coach's standpoint. I'll get all that. I mean, what they're doing with off weeks, don't do that anymore. Don't. I think they gave the starters too much downtime. It's not like they were on break for a week, folks. They just were used less in contact and running around. They looked at younger players. But I think we can now say that they probably needed some more work than they got. And honestly, I don't know how much they did. But they were at practice. People think by having a break means they were just off eating pizza. I mean, they're still doing their stuff. It's just they didn't go at it as hard as they would normally during a game week, and maybe that isn't the right way to go. But after last night, one of our colleagues from The Athletic, Max Olson, I didn't read the story, but wrote about how there is a scenario in which 6-3 Baylor and 6-3 Kansas State meet in the Big 12 championship. Yeah, and I saw a lot of cases. I don't even want to hear it. I'm with them. This was their chance. They just had to win out, and by God, KU's probably going to beat Colorado. KU's the best team in the conference right now in terms of how they're playing. It's crazy. So I just get everyone's frustrations. My frustrations aren't with fans at all. I mean, I think some of you probably need to get a little more perspective. You don't fire a coach that's 7-3 for a bad game or two. But also, Chris Kleiman, I asked him immediately about changes because he said, I'm not making changes. I asked him changes. He didn't answer, I'm not making changes. He said, I don't want to talk about changes right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because a good manager will cool down, back up, and assess things. That he fired his best friend once as offensive coordinator. And I think Connor Riley is an amazing human being. He's an incredible offensive line coach. But I've been saying this. There's one of two things going on with this offensive line. Either they're just not very good because K-State fans and all of us and the coaches have been spoiled by the Cooper BBs and all that, those great players that were around him, or they miss having their coach on the sideline with them. Because Connor Riley is as hands-on, as engaging with his player group as any coach that I've ever seen. They got to get him out of the press box. And whether that means taking away his play calling duties or not, I don't, that's up to coach. I personally would at this point. I think it wasn't necessarily all play calling that made it, but moving him away from his players has been an issue. And I'm not a person that believes offensive play calling can be done with great precision on the sideline. Sideline's a horrible place to watch a game. People want me to ask about specific plays. You can't see specific. You're up in the stands with a better view than a coach on the sideline, Cole, right?
Mm-hmm. Unless you know what the play is coming in, which I'm sure Kleiman does, but still, you're not going to be able to evaluate what went wrong based off of your position on the sideline. I don't know if it's like, here's where I'm at with the offensive line. I don't think they're very quick. I don't think they're as maybe physically strong as the last group was, which is an issue. I think the biggest thing just comes down to this. They can't do the things that they did last year. And I don't know if that is a stubbornness, as I've talked about multiple times on the offensive side of the ball, of, well, it worked. It's going to work. We just got to keep doing it. It's going to work eventually, because there are coaches who believe that their scheme is so good that this will work. We just have to do it. We have to continue to do it. We have to try and establish the run. We have to do it. When in reality, anything they want to do offensively with the run game right now, it just isn't working. And so they have to try and find other ways to do it. I mean, we saw there was an option play where Avery pitched out to DJ 15 yards. Wonderful. Run more option. There was plays where they would try and run double power that would get stuffed in the backfield for -1 yards. Okay, well, we know that that's probably not going to work. So maybe we should run another play. That would be the thinking as a coach, right? But it isn't. And so that's a problem. And I think in the future, K-State's going to have a lot more athletic linemen because they're recruiting. They have been recruiting athletic linemen. They recruited 2 tackles. Nobody wants to hear this, but they recruited 2 offensive tackles who are multi-sport athletes who played football and basketball and are over 6'8". They will be able to do the things they want to do when those guys are ready, but they're not. And so you have to play with who you have. And right now, I just think scheme-wise, it's really not working what they want to do. And I found it really interesting, Fitz. After the game, somebody asked Avery Johnson, when you guys started to go tempo, you started to kind of move the ball a little bit. What do you think about that? Or maybe I might ask him a question about, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But he said, well, it felt like when we started to push the ball down the field, we started to go tempo, we started to have a lot more success, and hopefully we can do that in the next coming weeks. To me, that tells me everything that I want to know. There is a disconnect between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback, and that just can't happen.
No, the stakes of that is the transfer portal. I've never talked about that, but I think that's got to be on the table if you're Avery Johnson. This is no way to maybe this is all Avery's fault. Maybe he's just not that good. Or maybe he's been completely mismanaged by his coaches. That I feel like they've gotten so into his head about protecting his body and not running that often that he's scared to run. It's entirely possible he got popped so hard at Colorado in a play that we didn't realize. I don't remember the play in which he got injured at Colorado, but maybe that took something out of him and made him think about running a little bit too much. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to Monday's press conference because I feel like we'll have a better opportunity to assess things with Coach Kleiman, and I know him. He'll be forthright with it. He's at that point. Someone asked where Brien Hanley is. Brien had dental work and he's struggling with it. I had to fill in, do his Friday show for him because he said he's got a fat face. I'm like, I know you do, but wow, it's the dental work. But so yeah, he's on the IR for us too. I do think there's a complete disconnect right now between the coaches and players, and not just in communication and play calling. I'm going to be really blunt. I think the coaches are buying too much into their own stock. Kansas State's 3 safeties have been absolute trash the last 3-4 weeks. Awful. Going back to the BYU game, in fact, Marquise Siegel has burned so much that I'm surprised his nickname isn't Toast. When an opposing team needs something, they throw it Siegel. How a trained monkey like me can see this, and yet he's out there. Jordan Riley got a big fumble recovery, but the only reason he was there to recover the fumble was he didn't put his shoulder into someone before that. You got a safety that doesn't want to hit. It's late to the ball. BJ Payne's been not BJ Payne as of late. Everyone, whether it's Coach Kleiman or the players or the coaches, need to be held accountable in their own way. They threw the ball to Dante Cephas last year, who has been a target of my criticism at times. And the dude caught the ball and made some plays.
A touchdown wiped off the board too.
Yep, got Trey Spivey out there, and he dropped a critical pass early, but he started playing well. If your old guys are going to mope around and not make plays and be late to things and consistently make mistakes, damn it, put a young guy on the field to let him make the mistakes with the hope that he learns from them. At the end of the day, K-State's 7-3. I fear they're going to be 7-5 this season, and it'll end up being a disaster. But as the head coach, it does fall on Chris Kleiman. He knows that. He took account of that. And I think part of what we saw last night was the reality of him realizing I misjudged how bad this was. I thought the coaches and I could keep this together, and it's not happening. So there will be some changes coming. And I don't know if there'll be changes announced or they just happen. I would encourage them to announce changes because I'm not saying that the worst thing here isn't the loss, but it's pretty bad when you lose the I'm looking at the comments over here, and I've gotten to know a lot of these handles, if not the person in person. I know how this person thinks from years of interacting with them on social media, on our message boards, and now in these chats. They've lost the faith of their fans that they're going to prepare a football team to play a game. Prepare them while getting paid astronomical sums. Self-evaluation should have happened in the off week. It didn't, apparently, and that's squarely on the coaching staff and Chris Kleiman. Because some of the things we saw at Houston not only returned, but were magnified and worse. So I'm not a fire them all kind of guy. We all have bad days at the office. Your office just isn't on national TV. But that was a bad day for everyone involved. I think the only ones who had passion for that endeavor last night were in the stands as fans. Team didn't look like they cared. Coaches didn't coach like they cared. They had a turnover early in the game, another slant pattern after. I gotta admit, going back to that slant pattern was gutsy after it cost you a Houston game.
Second play of the game.
Back-to-back slants for interceptions, basically. That seemed to have such a huge impact on the team. I can't fathom why. So the team's obviously lost faith in themselves and their coaches. I saw an interesting comment about Avery trying to fire up everyone, and everyone just kind of ignored him. I need to go back, and I don't know if that's something he saw on TV or it was, visible from the stands.
They did show, there was a scene on TV of him talking to his offense on the sideline. And I mean, I think people are kind of blowing that out of proportion a little bit, to be completely honest. I mean, you have no idea what's being said in that huddle. Because you don't want somebody to sit there and cuss out an offense. Like, that's what people don't understand. And I hate to be that guy, But until you are on the sideline of any kind of level of football, it's so hard to sit there and say what needs to be said to a team. Half the time, these guys don't even interact with each other on the sideline because they're talking to their position coaches, because they're talking to their position groups. And so very rarely does an offense actually get a chance to sit there with one another, dissect what's going on, and make changes. The coaches will make changes while the defense is out there. But when the defense is out there, then the defensive coaches can't make changes to the defense. And so there's so much that goes on in the middle of the game, and that's why preparation work is so important. But you're not going to get Avery Johnson. He's not the type to sit there and go Tom Brady on his offense, right? That's what everybody thinks of when they think of a quarterback, is they think of Tom Brady sitting there and cussing out his offense when they're not doing good. And then magically, because they're the New England Patriots, they go down and win the game and score 3 touchdowns. But folks, that's not how football is. And that's not who Avery Johnson is. He's just not. He is a leader. I firmly believe that, but he's not a vocal leader right now. And that's okay. Sometimes when vocal leaders or when non-vocal leaders try to become vocal leaders, it ends up badly. And players know if Avery is sitting there yelling at me, it's because either A, he's being told to, or B, he feels like he has to, and it's a little forced. And players pick up on that. He's not a vocal leader, but that's okay. And I think that fans can kind of take that and blow it out of proportion a little bit. And so I think for Avery, man, he just has to do what he does best. And right now he's not being put in position to do what he does best. And that's disappointing. However, Fitz, we saw Trey Spivey get in there and make plays. Jace Brown didn't have a very good game, but we've seen the connection that those two guys have. I'm full on board. Go youth movement on offense, man. Joe Jackson looked outstanding on Saturday. And he looked like a guy who took advantage of his opportunity and ran with it. I mean, the guys that are out there giving consistent effort need to be the guys that are out there who play consistently.
Right. I agree with all that. Sometimes the plays don't work. Maybe you're just not good enough. Maybe they're not coached well enough, or maybe it's a crappy play. It doesn't really work with your personnel against that defense. I feel like I keep seeing that, Cole. Here's what we shouldn't run against this defensive front. We're going to run it because we can move them. And that's what I mean by too much pride. I feel like there's a layer here of Connor Riley truly believing in his offensive line, that they're better than what they're showing. So I'm going to call this play again and they're going to get it right. Okay, I'm going to call this play again and they're going to get it right. They're going to pick up this first down. And they don't. Some self-evaluation top to bottom needs to take place. It should have taken place, as I said, during the off week. I also, honestly, if coach, who I respect tremendously, if this personal issue is this distracting, maybe step away for these last 2 games. This team isn't going to go to the championship game. I mean, hell, they might make the Liberty Bowl. I prefer death.
That's a good reference.
I would save that joke for Liberty, Missouri, but it works for the bowl game too. Yeah, I'm not seeing a ton of things here in the chat. A lot of people just venting, which is fine. I'm not saying you can't, but Cole, what's step one for this team? What's step one when they get to practice next week as a coach?
Yeah. I mean, step one is probably get them up at the facility today. I don't know if I think they typically watch film on Sundays. If they don't, they probably should come in today. I would say that step one is to have them come in, and then there needs to be some real conversations that take place. And I think some of that needs to be player led, but right now I don't think this is a player led team. And Chris Kleiman talked about how the Tulane game was a culture win, and I don't know where that culture has gone. I still think that there is a good culture that this coaching staff wants to build, but right now this isn't a player-led team. And so there needs to be some frank conversations from the coaches based off of, hey, how do you want this season to end? Because you're right. There's a very good chance that this team, I don't want to say very good, but there's a chance this team could come out against Cincinnati, do the exact same thing and lose, because Cincinnati's good enough to beat anybody in this conference. We've seen the Big 12 is absolutely crazy. Give Arizona State credit, by the way. We haven't said that yet, but give Arizona State credit,
absolutely.
by the way. That is a really good football team. Kenny Dillingham is a hell of a coach. And I'm going to say it, Fitz. He should win Big 12 Coach of the Year. Right now, Colorado and Arizona State have the same record. And all the Colorado fans in this chat are about to blow it up, which, by the way, what Colorado fans?
It's weird.
Well,
They're
thanks
weird.
for watching. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
But Kenny Dillingham should win Coach of the Year. This was a team who was on a bowl game sanction last year. They won 3 games. 3 games. They brought in a veteran quarterback and a freshman quarterback, and the freshman beat them out. And this is a team that's 8-2 with a chance to beat BYU at home next week, be 9-2, and maybe even get to the Big 12 championship game, which would be absolutely amazing. So shout out to Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. But the reality of the situation is this. They need to give all of those players some real talking to and say, how do you want the season to end? Because you can find a way to make this season go absolutely horrible, or you can beat Cincinnati and then go, honestly, Fitz, do the funniest thing in the world and beat Iowa State and let them not get 10 wins in a regular season, which would be the absolute most hysterical thing in the world. Once again, to keep Iowa State from that 10-win threshold. I don't know. Right. Like I could see K-State coming out next week and responding. If I feel like if Chris Kleiman would have showed me a little bit more, and maybe on Monday, the tone is going to be different. Maybe he was just really bad. But if he would have just come out and said, this is on me, we've got to be better. And there wasn't as much emotion, which that maybe is a downfall of Chris Kleiman. He wears his emotion on his sleeves, and you can tell exactly what's going on with him. Even when things are good and when things are bad, you know what's going on inside the mind of Chris Kleiman. Maybe Monday we get that, and maybe they come out and have a great week of practice and win on Saturday. But to me, the number one step is you just have to find a way to get this train back on the tracks, because they still can have success to end the season. It might not be what they wanted, but they can still have success to end the season and build towards next year. And if they can do that, we're going to look back on this year as the season that could have been, with the blips in the radar and not the disaster that derailed the train.
So a topic we haven't discussed really, we mentioned it, but I see comments on the X thread that I asked for topics. I have no idea what in the living hell is going on with special teams. Cole, you've done some snapping. How is this happening? Look, people don't appreciate how tough snapping is, and you don't notice snappers until they do this kind of nonsense. But this has been 2 different snappers, right, Cole?
Yeah.
Over 2 different games over a 3-week period.
Nerves. You want the answer? It's nerves.
Well,
and
unfortunately, it's nerves, that's but the case. It's like they collectively have the yips. And I'm beginning to wonder why the special teams players are the ones getting the yips.
It's not on the coaches. I'll tell you that right now. That the special teams aspect, that is not on the coaches. We saw a bad hold. Not a very good snap, but it was a very, very easy hold. That's the thing. Sometimes, you know what? The holder has to make a play, and that's a long snapper talking. If it's a bad snap, sometimes the holder just has to make a play. We saw that in the Houston game where it was a little bit of a high snap. He caught it. McClanahan put it down, and Tennant kicked it through. None of that's on Tennant, and so if Tennant missed that field goal, that's not on Tennant. The snap was on the ground, and it honestly looked like bad mechanics from a long snapper perspective. His rear end was turned a little bit more to the side. His butt was way up in the air, and he just threw it on the ground. And again, that's what they do. All practice. All they do is snap. And so it's not like they're not good enough to be there. That's the thing. If they were not a good long snapper, they would not be on this roster. Because guess what? There are 25 to 50 random college kids who long snapped in high school, who, if you gave them the opportunity, open tryouts, come long snap. You know what? K-State probably could find 2 or 3 guys who are on the campus right now who could long snap just as good. And I'm being completely 100% honest, because it is, if you're good at it, it stays with you. And so it was just it's just yips. It's the yips. It's a great call, Fitz. It's just the yips. They're nervous because guess what? They know if they screw up, the other guy's going back in. And that's the reality of the business. But you've got to be strong-minded. Chris Kleiman talked about kicking like putting. Well, if that's like putting, then long snapping is, I mean, maybe like a 2-foot putt. Like it's you do it a million times, and the fact that they couldn't do it is just, it's mind blowing, and it's frustrating to watch, because you know what, I sincerely believe that if K-State makes both of those field goals, this game is completely different, and nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. I get that, but they had an illegal man downfield penalty that took off a touchdown, and 2 field goals that were botched because of bad snaps. I'm not a genius, but I know that's 13 points in K-State lost by 10.
Jan, I hear you, sister. It's all on the coaches. You know, at the end of the day, the players are accountable for their effort, but the coaches got to prepare them. I mean, that team just looked ill-equipped for the game, mentally, physically. And that, as she mentions in a later post, they're paid millions of dollars or significant amounts of money to have a team ready to play, and they weren't. I'll be intrigued to see what let me hold on. Let's answer this. Okay. Yeah. Apparently Keegan Johnson, I was so baffled because he was just nowhere to be found. And then I looked at Kansas State Football's own X account, and there he was in warm-ups, a photo of him. Well, apparently he pulled a hamstring in warm-ups. I didn't see it. Apparently no one saw it. I don't know where Jaden Jackson was. We kind of thought he'd be a key component of this game plan, but it gave some younger guys opportunities, and they showed out. And I'm all in on that. I'm all in, and I'm not blaming any one player, but there was a point there I probably would have put in Taquan Roberson just to give Avery a little break and see what happened with a guy who isn't afraid to run the ball, isn't going to be timid about it. Avery's not being definitive. That's one of the things I think Sam Levitt does extremely well. Arizona State's quarterback is a young quarterback, and the coaches mentioned it in the pregame. He's decisive. Gonna run, gonna pass. Boom, done. There's no, it's I'm off, I'm gone. There is no magic question to be asked. There's no magic sentence to be spoken to the players. There's none of that. What there is getting back to what they need to do, whether it's coaching better, listening better, executing better, playing harder. Our friend Kane had a great comment that the Tulane win was a culture win, right? Let's be honest. This looked like a culture loss. I feel like the culture has cracked, and I don't exactly know why, but I'm disgusted by the performance. I'm going to have a fun Sunday. I'm going to go watch that game again because I want to be better prepared for Monday's press conference. Folks, there isn't a question that can be asked that will solve these problems. They're trying to get, he said he didn't want to make changes. Then after last night, I said, do you want to make changes? He said, I'm not going to discuss it now. I'm coming back to it on Monday. It needs to be discussed. But at the end of the day, if a coach or a player or administrator doesn't want to answer a question, they're going to dance. Politician, they're not going to answer. So, yeah, Trevor's over. This is exactly right. Sam Levitt played the way I expected Avery to play. He takes off and runs right when it's there, throws the ball effectively. Very decisive, heck of a player. I agree with you.
Fitz, we have a preacher who has decided to enter the chat.
Oh, where? Oh,
oh, my face.
Look at you.
I know it's killing me. But you know what? I saw you guys in here. You can't understand what I'm saying, but damn it, I'm here to help you guys explain some of this or At least let you guys take a break from talking. Although you can't understand what I'm saying.
Oh, we got you fine, man.
You know what? First of all, I want to apologize, K-State fans, for the way that I look, man. My face is killing me. But it is what it is. I'm here. Yeah, that was a bad game last night, by all levels. But here what I want to say, and you guys tell me if you agree with me. I think we put K-State on a pedestal that we thought that they were better than what they actually are. And that's not anybody's fault. It's probably our fault. But the quarterback is not a good thrower of the football. He's just not right now. But he doesn't have to be. He's a sophomore. Second, the offensive line, not athletic. That's a given. You can see that just by watching them. They're not athletic, and they're not near as good as a line that we've had the last 2 seasons. The play calling is predictable and just bad. I mean, it's not unimaginative. I mean, it's just terrible. The secondary, not any good, below average. Wide receivers, below average. You put all that together, this is what you get. I mean, literally, if you put it all together, this is what you get. So, I don't know. It's crazy. Look at that. He agrees with me, but he can't understand you. I get it, man. I get it. But it's just what is going on has to change, and it's got to change right this very second. It's got to change. I say go up tempo. I don't know what you're going to do with the defense because other than putting a bunch of young guys in the secondary, which I say you do, because what's out there isn't working. It's just not working. So go up tempo. Stop trying to make Avery fit into your offense. You fit to what he does.
Amen, brother.
You want him to be good. Stop trying to make him do what you want. This North Dakota State offense is not him. Stop it. Stop it right now. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem.
I love dental work, Hanley.
Oh, I don't know, man.
I love it.
I was so frustrated last night, and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is just so stupid.
That's a great way to describe it.
It was just so stupid.
Yep.
And they came out hungry. And I'm talking about Arizona State. They came out hungry, the more confident team, the more prepared team. K-State should have been embarrassed. They should have been embarrassed by what they put out on the football field last night. And I'm sure you guys have already covered that. I apologize, but it was just unacceptable. And I got on and I was like, I got to come and talk because these guys, you guys are just getting frustrated. I'm frustrated. Everybody's frustrated. Now they need to be frustrated and do something about it.
Exactly.
And I don't care what people are saying. You can't make changes. You're not going to fire Chris Kleiman, but he can make changes. And I've said this once, and I'll say it 1,000,000 times. It's not about making a mistake. It's about living in the mistake. And when you live in the mistake, that is where you get into problems. We need a new offensive play caller. Period. End of story. I don't care. I don't care. It's not working. What you are doing, we're in the 2-minute offense trying to come back down 10 points inside the 25-yard line, and we run the ball? What are we doing? Oh, and not to mention we run the ball for 2 yards. Oh, my God. Yeah, we're going to catch them off guard. We're going to catch them off guard. Just so dumb.
I don't even think that's the thinking behind it, Brian. I don't even think it's we're going to catch them off guard. It's just okay, let me try and get a few yards here. It's just a total lack of awareness. That's not a trying to catch them off guard. It's just, I was telling Fitz, man, you got to kick a field goal. You're down by 10 and there's 3.5 minutes left. You're in field goal range. It's 4th down. Kick a field goal. If you miss it, the game's over anyway. K-State didn't get points on that drive anyway. It's a 2-score game. Kick the field goal. It's just a lack of awareness that just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Here's a great comment. Because this is a gorilla sitting in the corner of the room. Avery's family is wonderful. His dad's outspoken, and I'm outspoken. don't have any problem with that. The concern is Avery's dad's going to get him into the portal. Avery's in charge. Pops has made that very clear. Avery's in charge. He makes his own decisions. But at some point, his love for K-State, let's be honest, there's business decisions that need to be made. This is a career. And if he feels like he's being held back, this offense isn't providing, the school isn't providing, the coaching isn't providing what he needs to get forward, I'm not saying he won't go into the transfer portal. I say I don't think he will, but I think some changes need to be made probably to keep him at Kansas State. But the question now becomes, fans are disenchanted with Avery Johnson. I'm telling you, this is special. This kid's special. He's being squandered.
Yep.
They have not only mismanaged him as an athlete, as a quarterback, as a player, they've mismanaged him up here.
This is not his offense, Fitz.
It's not.
You can't run that same offense with him as your quarterback. The same offense that you ran with Will Howard, that is not his offense. Teams do it all the time. They bring in an offensive hell, look at the Washington Commanders. They brought in a new coach. They draft a quarterback. They hired Cliff Kingsbury because they knew that, we've got this quarterback. Cliff Kingsbury's the best guy for him. Well, why can't K-State do that?
Yeah.
We brought in Matt Wells. Let him run his type of offense, not have Matt Wells fit into what we're trying to do. Makes no sense. Matt Wells, there's no way he's going to be here next year. No way. And do the same type of role. No way. And I'm sorry, K-State fans, we're lying to ourselves. I'll be the first one to say it. If changes aren't made, Avery's not going to be here. I'll tell you that right now. No. He's not staying. And I know that sucks, but it's the truth. Why would you when you don't have to? And you pay no penalty. It's not going to happen.
All true. All true. I don't know, man. This is an amazing situation because it's so unpredictable. But I also feel a sense of guilt that I didn't see how bad this was. I don't know that anyone really saw how bad it was, to be honest. I think even the coaches are stunned by what took place.
Which is a problem, by the way, Fitz.
Which is a problem. It's a disconnect from your own locker room. Which
yes, that is a problem.
Horrible.
Again, we started this off. Some of you, I see, still want to know what's going on in Chris Kleiman's private life because he's, paid to be your coach. I'm sorry, that doesn't make it your business. But it's substantial. It's not in his household. It's very close to his household, but it's not him. So it's not good. Any of us would be distracted by something like that. It doesn't matter if you're paid $5.5 million or $5.5 an hour. You're going to be distracted. But again, I come back to this. That's why you have a coaching staff that's also highly paid. People got to step up. No one was stepping up. Not a single person looked like they were stepping up. Avery was trying to fire up players. They didn't want to be fired up. They wanted to do whatever they're doing. I'm going to end this with this. First, I'm going to give Big B some more time to talk before we close out. But everything has to be on the table now. Nothing can be sacred. Not a damn thing. Not your coaching title, not your coaching salary, not your starting position, not your standing in the two deep. Nothing should be sacred and off the table. I go to practice this week, and we're going to see who really wants to freaking play football. Product might be not as talented, but one thing I've noticed through the years, and I know this because I was born and basically raised as a K-State fan from age 4 on. I wasn't born here. I got carried away. K-Staters will accept a lot. What they don't accept is a lack of effort, a lack of passion. because as a culture, these people wake up early, go to work for no glory, and work their ass off to feed their family. And now to see kids that are getting paid sometimes substantial amounts of money go through the motions, that is so against the Kansas State culture. I see why fans are booing. I get it. I understand. You never do anything half-ass. Be full ass all the time.
Mike Tyson style.
That was troubling to see. Thanks for putting that image in my head right now. Mike needs to do a little work on that butt. It looks like an old man's butt. I know this. I have one.
He is an old man, though.
He is. Yeah, I felt like Arizona State was Jake Paul and K-State was Mike Tyson. Trying, flailing, not effective.
Yeah.
Well, final thoughts?
I would say this, guys. Last night was not one of those games where anybody expected the outcome. I don't think anybody would have been, and I wasn't shocked that Arizona State won the game. I mean, they're a good football team. This is not like Houston. But this is a game where, if BYU and Houston's were time to take a look in the mirror, Arizona State is, okay, we've looked in the mirror and now we know that we need to change. And if you didn't see that before, you have to see it now. And I think they do. I mean, I think Chris Kleiman knows that. I think the players know that. I would hope they know that. This isn't a matter, you're not playing for trying to make the Big 12 championship. You're not playing for trying to make the college football playoff. Now you're trying to finish the season on a high note and continue to build momentum and take the program in an upward trajectory, because as bad as it is right now, you still can trend upward. You always want to be trending upward and not downward. You can still trend upward. It's not going to be easy. You can still trend upward, but you won't finish where you wanted to. And so it's one of those conversations like I talked about earlier. Guys, you know what? How do you want the season to end? Do you want to go down flailing, or do you want to go down with a fight? That's really what it comes down to.
What I would also say is one of the things that we always have to keep in mind is we were wrong. And I mean, everybody was wrong about the hierarchy of this conference to begin with.
Everybody, yeah.
And it wasn't just me or Fitz or Cole. It was everyone. The two teams that were picked at the bottom are literally the two teams that I think are going to end up being in the Big 12, which is going to be Arizona State, because I think they're going to beat BYU, and Colorado. So you have to keep all that in mind. Arizona State is a better football team than Kansas State. I know that's tough to say, that's tough to think, but they're just better right now. I mean, we have to be willing to say that. Was the effort there for Kansas State? No, it was not. Was the coaching there? Absolutely not. But when you get beat by somebody that just outplays you, it is what it is. And we have to take a hard look in the mirror. And just like Cole said, I agree with him. Decide what you want to do. They should know by Wednesday. Oh, you know what? So-and-so doesn't want to play. Let's just get him out. So-and-so doesn't want to play. Let's get him out. I agree with what you said, Fitz. Take a hard look at practice. You'll know by Wednesday. You'll know by Wednesday, the third period. You'll know who wants to play and who doesn't want to play. Oh, they're not interested. Let's get his ass out of there and get somebody else in there and go that route. And while the score might not be better, the effort will be better. And as long as the effort's better, we can live with everything else, because you can fix other things. You can't fix effort. You just can't. And Kansas State, it's a mess, but it can be fixed. But are you willing to do it? That's the only thing. Are you willing to do it, Fitz?
I agree with everything there. We'll have more podcasts this week, of course. We'll get the insiders tomorrow night. We got some cool guests coming on. I'll be interested to see what they're like unleashed on our insiders podcast. Hopefully Big B will soak his face in ice water for 24 hours. You might want a straw so you can breathe.
Here, Fitz, before we go, I want to put this up here. Finally tuned. First of all, thank you.
Thank you so much. Finally tuned for the super chat.
And thank you guys for, I know it's not easy after K-State loses to listen to this, but we really do appreciate it and everything, all the comments in the chat.
Well, the fact that we're at 750-ish right now. And
Yeah.
viewing after one of the most pitiful performances I've seen by a K-State team since Bill Snyder came out of retirement. I mean, maybe the most pitiful. I had problems finding one where the team just didn't look like it cared, and the coaches kept doing things over and over that weren't working. I don't know, folks. We'll muster forward. We've got a press conference on Monday, and we'll have podcasts all week long. It's going to be an interesting week. Trying to balance the negative with the positive, but sometimes you need to talk about the negative to find the positive. We appreciate everyone stepping in, being part of the show. Big B, thanks for coming off the bench just when we were about to run out of words and cry. So bad. It's there's a lot here, and our prayers to Coach Kleiman's family for what they're going through, and let's hope that those around him can step up and help him, and because that was not good at all. You let down someone that isn't just your boss, it's someone you respect, and in turn everyone let down the most important people, the fans. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back later this week with tons of more coverage.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.